oil in here. And we're going to put an onion in these patties, but I prefer to saute them a little bit first. And you may have heard of the bear claw. So I'm holding my hands like a bear claw so that the knife goes up against the knuckle and we don't create a carnivorous dish out of my fingertips. So one way you know if your oil is hot enough is to put a couple of your onions in there. So I'm going to saute these onions. And what I have going on in here are sweet potatoes boiling. So one of these is now in there. So we've got things going for our salmon sweet potato patties. And while we have that cooking, I'll show you how to make the tartar sauce. So a tartar sauce is known for being sour and sweet and salty. And usually you put in like sweet pickle relish in your tartar sauce. Well, salmon works very nice with a more fruity flavor. So we're going to, instead of using relish in our tartar sauce, we're going to use apples. And I'm going to dice them very small, like you'd expect your tartar sauce to be. Line up the little matchsticks here. And there you have these little bits of crunchy sweet that's going to go in the tartar sauce. Keeping an eye on everything. So we'll put the mayo. Tartar sauce typically has something sour in it. So we're going to take a lemon and squeeze some in here. We're going to put some curry powder in our tartar sauce. So curry powder is very high in something we call curcumin, which is comes from the turmeric that's in the curry powder. And we'll mix that up. And then I'll put my little pieces of apple in there. And this little sauce here is going to really pop the flavor of the salmon patties. So here is our tartar sauce. Oh, I forgot to add a little Dijon mustard here. Mustard also gets its yellow color from turmeric as well. So that will add to the spiciness of the flavor. So that will be our tartar sauce. All right, not much sense to have tartar sauce if we don't have patties to put them on. So our sweet potatoes are ready, and what we'll do is smash them up a little bit. And you notice I left the skin on because there's not lots of nutrition in the skin as well, and some fiber, all the goodness in sweet potatoes and why they're anti-inflammatory. Those onions we sauteed, lots of good properties with onions as well, not only anti-cancer properties but also antimicrobial properties. So this is a wild-caught Alaskan salmon, and the reason I'm using canned is because it's far less expensive than buying it fresh or frozen. And you also get the extra benefit of the minerals of the bones. So how great is that? All right. So I have washed my hands, I promise, and I am actually going to use them to mash. I have juiced some lemons. I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the flavor builders is acid. So acid breaks open the cells of the food, which releases more flavor. So we're going to put a little acid in there. We're going to put some curry powder again, which contains turmeric, which is what curcumin is. And we're also going to put some plain turmeric in here, just to add more of that wonderful goodness of turmeric. We're going to put a little bit of mustard in here as well, about a tablespoon. We're going to add some mayo to this as well. All this is going to add nice fat and other flavors to it. And then we're going to mix this up, mash it up, and I am going to use my hands because I want to get to those bones and smash them up and get that skin of the salmon well incorporated into the patties. Be sure if you're preparing this for yourself or someone else, you wash your hands very well before you do it. So I'm getting those little tiny bones smashed up. They are the bones along the spine of the salmon. Looks like this. And they're very soft, so don't worry. They smash very easily. And now we want the patties to be able to stick together a little bit. So we're going to put some breadcrumbs in there. You could use any kind of breadcrumbs. You could even use grains like rice, leftover cooked rice. So here we go. The breadcrumbs are going to help it stick together. And I'm going to take a little taste of this to see how the flavors are. Okay, it needs salt. Salt is the quintessential seasoning ingredient. It brings out the taste of whatever it's in. So don't forget to use the salt. I'm going to add a little more Dijon mustard here. We want this to taste really delicious. And it tastes a little dry to me, so I'm going to add a little more mayonnaise. So you follow the recipe, but you really have to taste as you go. So there we go. And we're going to have to let this sit for a little bit so that the breadcrumbs can expand. So how about we make up some patties here? The breadcrumbs have come to a little bit of power in holding this together. And actually what's ideal is to form the patties, put them on a plate and put them in the refrigerator, and then they'll set up even better. And what we'll do is make a couple of patties here and demonstrate cooking them. So I've got my oil heating up, and if you look in the oil, you can see one of the pieces of onion that was in there is now bubbling. So you don't want to put, if you plan to pan fry, you don't want to put it in while the oil is cold. You want it at the point where it's ready to go. So there we go. Love that sizzling sound. Now these patties could be baked. And if you did bake them, what I would suggest you put them on a baking sheet and then just brush a little bit or spray a little bit of oil on each side. And bake it in the oven at 350, probably for about 20 minutes. Remember, everything in here is already cooked, so we're just heating it up. I like to pan fry it a little bit because it puts a nice little crispness on and adds a little more flavor to it. So here we go. I hear it sizzling. And what you're going to do is cook it until it's golden brown on each side. They call it the golden rule, so you don't want to char food. Charring is not a good thing to do to your food because when you char it, it creates chemicals that are actually harmful to you. So we're going to keep an eye on this, see how we're doing. Now I prefer to use my iron skillet for this. I have a well-seasoned iron skillet, and when you have a really well-seasoned iron skillet, it's almost like a non-stick pan, but without the chemicals of the non-stick. So we'll let this go, and you kind of know it's ready because it releases easily. Over. There we go. Just got a little bit past golden, but not bad. And one thing, when you have something sweet, like the sweet potato that has sugars in it, it tends to caramelize and it'll get a little bit darker because of the sugars in there. And I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit and let these cook. So really we're just basically heating them through. Everything has been cooked. And I have my tartar sauce ready here, and we'll be serving these hot, but they're actually good at room temperature. You could also, if you have leftover patties, put it in the fridge and eat it the next day, maybe with a salad. These also can be frozen, and you can freeze them either raw, or I prefer to cook them ahead, freeze them, and then I have something that I just take out, thaw out, and it's ready to go. Alrighty, so let's see if we have a release here. There we go. Here's our patties. And we'll pretend we're in a fancy restaurant. Wipe the plate a little bit. Put a little bit of tartar sauce. Some people like it on the side. Some people like it on top. Whatever is your fancy. Dress it up a little more, but you don't have to. And here you go, 2 salmon patties with sweet potatoes and a curried tartar sauce.